Honourable Speaker, Honourable Prime Minister, remaining a protocol for the House in acknowledgement observed. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to contribute the 2026-27 Budget Appropriation Bill before this House. Let me begin by acknowledging the Honourable Minister of Finance and his good team at the Ministry for the hard work that they have done. And they have indeed made tough calls. They have delivered a budget that faces reality rather than fleeing from it. That takes courage, Mr. Speaker, and that deserves our respect. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear. Budget is not a comfort blanket. It is, in fact, a call to arms. It is an honest declaration of our vulnerabilities. And as a large ocean state, because of our dependency to the rest of the globe, we are hit hard when shocks externally caused occurs. Our resources, Mr. Speaker, are finite. In this budget, Mr. Speaker, we are saying that despite the harsh global headwinds, we will not accept decline as our destiny. We will build, we will transform, and we will do so with our eyes wide open to the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Mr. Speaker, stability is not a given, it is earned. It is built through discipline, through difficult choices, and through courage to say no when yes would be easier but irresponsible. This budget delivers that stability, not through the wishful thinking proposals from the Fijians First and the One Nation members of Parliament masquerading as independent members of the House. Through hard numbers, Mr. Speaker, through prudent and measured measurement, through a government that understands that fiscal responsibility is not an abstract concept. It is the foundation upon which every other aspirations of ordinary Fijians must be built. We are navigating fuel crisis that we did not create. When the Honourable Emmanuel delivered the budget on 26th of June 2026, oil price was sitting at 72 USD a barrel. The deal had been signed, and by all projections, it was going to come down much faster. The deal didn't last long. Rockets started again, and aggression has since surged. When I checked this morning, Honourable Speaker, it was sitting at 85 US dollars a barrel, and likely to close at 87 by the end of today. An increase of about $30 Fijian a barrel from when the budget was announced, and we have not even passed it yet. In the midst of all of this volatility, Mr. Speaker, this budget and this government is protecting the most vulnerable among us. And again, for the whining Fijians First and the One Nations in the House, on the lack of capital budget, consider there is an additional $1 billion of social wages in the operational. They are destined for Fijians that you say you fight for. There are operational expenses that produce capital outputs throughout all the ministries. You would have to be extremely deaf not to hear the list that was read out by the Honourable Bulitawu on Monday, and again by the Honourable Tunumbuna this morning. That, Mr. Speaker, is leadership in the most uncertain and volatile times. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources have been allocated $37.1 million for this financial year. This represents a reduction of approximately $3.5 million, about 10% of our previous year's allocation. And we have challenged ourselves to embrace efficiency, to adopt a more strategic-based approach to our programs, to achieve greater results and value for money across all areas of our operation. Because, Mr. Speaker, in times of constraints, we are forced to ask the most important question: what truly matters? Mr. Speaker, we cannot control the forces of global waves that buffet our shores. We cannot dictate oil prices. We cannot resolve distant conflicts. We cannot bend the arc of international markets to our will. We have heard the opposition say, as if you provide relief to the suppliers of fuel supplies, there will be no flow-on effect at the pump and on the price of public goods, etc. What nonsense. Where in the world has this Middle Eastern energy crisis not caused oil, gas, and prices to surge? None. So please, for the sake of the country, keep your economics to yourself, because you're likely to mislead others quite quickly with your hunky-dory economics theory. This budget, Mr. Speaker, is a response to a world in flux, and let me repeat, a world in flux, not the fairy tale world the Honourable Ketan Lal and the Honourable Alvik Maharaj spoke about yesterday. A world where energy shocks are more frequent now, where climate change is not a distant threat but a present reality, where the old certainties no longer apply. Because, Mr. Speaker, the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of transformation. And Fiji has had over a decade and a half of a government that had torn down institutional democratic constituency consents of Fijians, marginalized and destroyed Itauke aspirations, and forced the hands of private sector into compliance by decree. And the time for transformation, Mr. Speaker, is now, and it is through this budget. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak directly to our people, to our farmers. I mean the real ones. I'm only the backyard farmer, so I can't offer any advice. I can only offer encouragement. To our business owners, to our young people watching from every corner of these islands. For too long, we have been dependent on sugar, dependent on imports, dependent on global markets that we cannot influence, and that era, we think, must end. We must now focus to deliver ourselves a resilient Fiji. We are growing the economy. The future of Fijians' agriculture lies not in a single crop, but in a rich tapestry of possibilities. Coffee, cocoa, pineapple, white guavas, dragon fruit, vanilla, name a few. Crops that the world wants, crops that our land can produce, crops that can command premium prices in international markets. Mr. Speaker, 1 million high-quality coffee seedlings are being planted across 500 acres. Our highlands have the terrier to produce exceptional coffee that can compete on the world stage. Processing facilities are being established in Rakiraki and other parts of Fiji. Value is being retained locally, jobs are being created, skills are being built. I want to thank and acknowledge Owner Coffee Fiji, the company that is spearheading this revival in Rakiraki. And as said yesterday by the Honourable Nyundamu, Rakiraki coffee is the sweetest in the world. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think the rule of thumb is that coffee must be anything but sweet. But if the people of Ra wants it that way, if they're happy, Fiji is happy to go along with them. On cocoa, Mr. Speaker, Fiji is producing about 100 tons, but the potential is huge. Cocoa Fiji Limited has just successfully exported 1 metric ton of cocoa beans to the United States. The industry has the potential to scale to 500 metric tons and beyond, and bring in 10,000 new farmers to that industry. That, Mr. Speaker, is the prize and the target we must set as a nation. And I want to thank the visionary behind this resurgence, a proud Fijian, Mr. Arif Khan, for his dedication and relentlessness, showing determination and being an example of how the private sector, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, provide localized economic zones and employment that sustains Fijians in Fiji. On pineapple, commercial shipment of 3 tons was successfully exported to New Zealand. Fijian pineapples are fetching a higher price in the international market. Exports to the Middle East began last year. In Ba, Mr. Speaker, one farmer began with 3 acres in 2015. Today, he is cultivating 150 acres, and he hopes to establish Fiji's first pineapple processing factory. That farmer, Akbar Azim Ali, must be helped to fulfill his dream and his ambition. He supplies today up to 10 tons a week in season and was recently awarded Fiji's best pineapple farmer. Across our rural heartland, Mr. Speaker, we must unlock the extraordinary potential of vanilla farming as a powerful catalyst for inclusive economic development, particularly for our women and our young people in our rural communities who form the backbone of our agricultural economy. And I say this, vanilla represents not only one of the world's highest value spices, often commanding prices exceeding US $200 per kilogram for premium cured beans, but a pathway to genuine empowerment and resilience. And this can transform household livelihoods while advancing gender equality in agriculture. And I am happy to see that while Ra has the sweetest coffee, farmers in Vosarogo gathered for a 2-day symposium in my hometown in Vosarogo on vanilla farming techniques. Mr. Speaker, vanilla, as of today, is the second most expensive spice in the world. This is the kind of ambition that we must encourage. This is the kind of entrepreneurship we must support. This is, in fact, the reset I would submit we need. And agriculture, as the Minister for Agriculture said this morning, gets a big budget this year, that will ensure that they will bring about the tapestry that will sweeten Fiji's agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, transformation requires a solid foundation, and that foundation is built on law. The Ministry of Lands is working towards completing the review of several key legislation, the State Lands Act of 1945, the Land Use Act of 2010, the Mining Act of 1965, and the Quarries Act of 1939. The draft bills for the State Lands Act and the Land Use Act are expected to be submitted to Cabinet by end of this month. The review of the Mining Act and the Quarries Act is in its final consultation phase. In one election cycle, Mr. Speaker, all 4 essential statutes have been holistically reviewed. Previous government's record, they introduced 1 statute, reviewed none in a decade and a half. This legislative reform aims to strengthen transparency, accountability, and fairness in land allocation process. They will improve sustainable management of Fiji's natural resource. They will align existing laws with contemporary environmental and climate change priorities. Mr. Speaker, land is one of the most valuable national assets. It provides the foundation for homes, livelihoods, communities, and economic development. It preserves our cultural identity and our heritage. We have returned land to their rightful landowning units. Over the past year, 18,173 acres of land have been returned. Land that was held for public purposes that have now ceased. These are not just land transfers. They are fulfillment of long-standing commitment, the resolution of historical matters, the strengthening of partnership and trust between government and landowning units. Mr. Speaker, at the Ministry of Lands, we are digitizing. We are transforming decades of geological records from paper-based archives into accessible digital database. Mr. Speaker, for context, land files in my ministry are older than all of us. I sometimes, to pass time, pick up an old file just to read from the first page. And it is fascinating, Mr. Speaker, the cursive writing, to then typewriter, to computer printouts, and even still, in between this long era of time, the use and the style of English used throughout is evidence in those pages. But the pages, Mr. Speaker, are brittle and they are falling off. The digitization process happening in all of our ministry staff around Fiji with full-time staff allocated to them seeking to preserve those pages because they contain our history. We have also established a comprehensive geological digital library at the MRD. We are digitizing survey records, lease information, and land administration services. Why? Because transparency matters, because efficiency matters, because in a world where information moves at the speed of light, we cannot be moving at the speed of paper. 58,000 have been allocated towards the continued digitization program at our ministry. Mr. Speaker, access to clean and safe drinking water remains a fundamental right and national priority. Government has allocated 6.2 million for our groundwater assistance program. This builds upon the significant achievement in the previous fiscal year, during which the ministry has completed 96 groundwater sources, benefiting 3,298 households and more than 23,000 Fijians. We are also investing in disaster preparedness and climate resilience. Close to 400,000 in JICA-supported assistance for volcanic hazard risk reduction. Close to 130,000 to maintain a 24-hour monitoring of earthquakes and tsunamis. Close to 90,000 for geotech research and geological hazard assessments in landslide-prone areas. Mr. Speaker, a vision can only be realized through people entrusted to deliver it. Our offices remain the backbone of our ministry's success. For many years, several critical functions were supported through project-funded positions. And these officers have consistently demonstrated exceptional professionalism, dedication, and service. I am therefore pleased to announce the 88 project-funded positions have now been regularized and incorporated as established positions within the ministry's permanent structure. 36 positions within the land surveying and 52 positions across groundwater drilling, reticulation, engineering, scientific services, technical functions, and administrative support. It was fitting, Mr. Speaker, to reward the 36 with land surveying with the appointment letters last week, because just the previous week, Mr. Speaker, those 36 staff were all part of the team that completed the Sawakasa mahogany woodlots, all 4,000 acres of very unforgiving, rough and rugged terrains of Northland, Tailebu. In exalting them last week, Friday, Mr. Speaker, I challenged the workforce to do 10% more, even with 10% less of budget. I reminded them that each interval of our generation and of our history, some are called to carry more weight than others. This is their time to carry more weight because the nation demands it off their shoulders. Mr. Speaker, we face a formidable challenge, but they are not insurmountable. We are not prisoners of our past. We are not victims of our geography. We are not defined by our vulnerabilities. We have a choice. We can cling to the past and watch it crumble in our hands, or we can have the courage to build something new. This budget, Mr. Speaker, before us provides us that time, the resource and the framework for transformation. But the resources alone are not enough. We need political will, we need the private sector partnership, we need the community engagement, we need to think beyond the box, beyond the cycle, beyond the politics. Mr. Speaker, allow me to speak to the sector that drives the engine of all nations seeking to advance. The private sector has always been the indispensable engine of prosperity in our economy, channeling capital, fostering innovation, and creating the jobs and opportunities that lift living standards for families across this nation. I want to acknowledge the courage and the foresight of our local investors and Fijian entrepreneurs who have already placed their confidence in our shared future through infrastructure projects that connect communities, technologies that enhance productivity, and sustainable enterprise that align growth with environmental stewardship. Yet the scale of our ambition demands even greater mobilization. To every business leader and investor from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, China, Korea, and in the UAE. I say Fiji offers a compelling proposition. Fiji is safe, has a stable macroeconomic foundation, a skilled and adaptable workforce, and a government committed to de-risking transformative investment through targeted partnership. Your capital, deployed with vision and discipline, will not only generate strong returns, but will shape a more resilient, inclusive, and dynamic economy for generations to come. The time to invest boldly in Fiji's potential is now. Mr. Speaker, I reiterate my full support for the 2026-2027 national budget, and in particular, the 37.1 million allocation to the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources. We will continue to uphold the sustainable stewardship of Fiji's land and mineral resources. We will work smarter to maximize result. We will remain focused on delivering high-quality service to our landowners, our lessees, stakeholders, and to the people of Fiji. Nasa wale, Speaker.